evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's midweek game here on AirVTV. You're very welcome along here. I'm joined as usual by Thomas Mount on my right and of course by Luke Dempsey on my left hand side. And what was a very exciting weekend, if the truth be known. We had the two intermediate, we had two junior semi-finals, and we also had the two senior semi-finals here at the weekend. So at this stage now, it's playing for trophies, I suppose, Luke. Is that fair to say, in all grades? And you and I were commentating. We'll go with the first game that we were at anyway, was with St. Loman's and Garrycastle Kinnegad, which was the second game here on Sunday.
Shea Murta Senior Football Championship semi-finals between St. Loman's Mullingar and Carrollstown Kinnegad. Paul Doolan here on commentary for AirVTV. I hope you're enjoying our coverage so far today, and we're looking forward to a great game for the second one. I'm joined in co-commentary this afternoon by former Westmesth and St. Loman's manager Luke Dempsey. Luke, you're in exchange today. I'm really expecting, if I'm honest, I'm expecting a rather defensive first half anyway, in particular, and certainly first third. But the ball has gone straight into the forward line. St. Loman's coming up. Peter Foy with a goal chance and already. And how wrong can you be? How wrong can you be? The game is barely on. It's David Whelan's after travelling at least 30-40 metres with ball in hand there. And again, it's surveying. Regan. Nice ball into O'Toole, into TJ Cox. Cox now takes on his man, goes past him. Badly missed here the last day, but that's a lovely score from TJ Cox. And it's here where they have absolutely dominated this first quarter. Heslin kicks it, Heslin pops it over. Was it ever in doubt? It's up on
the first score, but it is away out on the far sideline.
That looks like it's a good one. Yes, it is. That's a nice score. Can't see the number of it. 30 metres out, gets a nice strike on it there, and that's up and over the bar. Second score for Carrollstown Kinney. Hope I don't put the kibosh on him now, but that's a lovely strike, and that's a super score.
Fantastic point.
That's a super score.
Yeah, Callum was a sub on our school team. Great. He's mad about football.
Players with the and that's great work. Super defensive work by Jason Lynch, and definitely, Luke, there was no foul in that one. That was just absolutely superb defensive work by Jason Lynch. Yeah, one of the best tacklers, I suppose, in Westmeath.
That's the best tackle we've seen in the game, because it was really excellent play by Jason Lynch.
And he stayed with the player. He never deviated from what he was intending to do. Darren Giles now looking to get Torpy, and Torpy's in front of the goal. Is the goal! Oh, what a goal, and what a ball in!
But he can score them like that. That
was a tremendous score, and it was the ball in from Darren Giles that was the key point of that one. Is he going to kick a score now to put them ahead? That one is gone and up and over the bar, and Darren Giles, and all of a sudden from nowhere, Giles was worth the admission money alone, and then to see Torpy just casually strike it to the back of the net, it was a tremendous goal.
Yeah, but Darren Giles is one of the best left feet.
St. Loman's on the go again. It's Owen O'Keefe, is it? Yes, it is, and there's the equaliser, and all of. But again, Kinnegad punished them for it. Who's going to get to this one? It's going down towards Darren Giles. He wasn't first man. He shouldn't have been the first man to get to that one, but out it comes to Ger Leach. Leach sidesteps a man, sidesteps a second man on to the left foot. Is he going to get the lead point just before the half-time whistle? That's a super score from Ger Leach. Two wonderful sidesteps, Luke Dempsey. His third point of the game that we thought was gone out of Kinnegad's clutches after a first quarter barrage by St. Loman's Mullingar. But incredibly, at half-time, it's Carrollstown Kinnegad who lead 1-6 to 1-5. And if we said that Lomans were good value for their lead earlier on, Kinnegad are definitely good value for leading at half-time, Luke.
That's a very good point, Paul. They really are. I mean, that last point was just class personified. Darren Giles, a long ball. Darren just came out and he lovely soccer styled it to Ger Leach. Two beautiful little dummies. Like Owen Mulligan's Tyrone goal a few years ago, and a gorgeous point to put Kinnegad 1 point up. And
our side of the field, Kinnegad now looking to get the first score of the second half. That ball is high, hanging on it. Jack Torpy gets a touch to it, doesn't go out over the end line. Looked very close with that time, but Torpy turns back again, and Torpy is heading in towards goals, and he's going to fist it across the goals, and it's over the back. Kinnegad have really dominated for the vast majority of this, and there's a ball slips through the hands there from Mushing Hogan. It's out to Callum Cruz dead straight in front of the goal, and Callum Cruz pops it up and over the bar, and Luke, he has been a shining light for Kinnegad.
So passionate about it. So look at him out there now with the
ball into the forward line, looking to get it through, gets it through, Ronan O'Toole looking for Heslin. Heslin is out in front. Normally when that's the case, Heslin gets on the ball, but Heslin doesn't get to it this time at the first time of asking. But look at that, great experience from John Heslin. Is he going to knock this one? What a score, Form is temporary, Luke, but class is permanent.
But that was unbelievable.
Giving up the kick out completely, Luke.
Yeah, which, well, maybe that's the reason when Kinnegad are going to have to be careful. They're after turning over this kick out. And
into Sam McCartan. McCartan ships it over to TJ Cox, dead straight in front of the goals. Is he going to get another score? It is. And if Kinnegad started the brighter in the second half, I do see the number 25 St. Loman, Sean Flanagan, getting ready to come into the fray here. Shot at goal from Owen Bracken here. That looks like it's going very close. Thorpe goes off a good work by Jason Lynch in fair line. Has a chance to knock this over. Good strike of the ball off his left foot, and that's another point for Darren Giles.
And 3 points is a significant enough lead.
Now skips by one, still retains the ball, gets it out to the far side. Out it goes to Ken Casey. Casey now trying to switch on to the right boot. Does eventually get it on to the right boot. Holds on to possession. That's good work by Ken Casey. Gets it on to Ronan O'Toole. Ronan from a very, very narrow angle, but that looks like it's a really decent score, is it? It is, yes. As well, who are excellent forwards. Ball goes into TJ Cox. Cox now turns around one man. Goes. He's dispossessed by Fleming. No, he's not. Out it comes to Ken Casey. Casey now in possession. Somehow gets it around it. Gets it into Ronan O'Toole. O'Toole now way over the far side of the field. He's going for an absolute hit and hope in front of Hester, but it's not, because that's an absolutely tremendous score. Super score by trying to penetrate what has been a resolute St. Loman's defence. Over to this side of the pitch. Owen O'Brien has had a really good game for Kinnegad, particularly in the second half. Looks like he's been fouled, but still retains possession of it. Owen O'Brien is going to have a crack from long range. Owen O'Brien has just kicked an absolute worldly Luke Dempsey. If we thought Ronan would be close to the grass as well, Luke. But it seems to be immaterial now at this stage. Out it comes, TJ Cox now, another man that hasn't got into the pitch of the game, particularly since his early outburst. But there again, into Ronan O'Toole, down the centre. O'Toole now for a long range effort, and that looks like it's heading over the bar. And Ronan O'Toole, when you need him, when the chips are for St. Loman's, almost on the halfway line. Kelvin Riley with ball in hand, another man with great experience that we haven't seen in a while. And look at this, Fola Iorindy was in acres of space into O'Toole, the man that has scored and brought Loman's back into this game. This one is back across the goal, and it's over the bar again, and Ronan O'Toole shooting the lights out now. This surely would be worth a while to put Jason Lynch on it there. That ball has gone up and over the bar, and just when you want him, John Heslin, he will know that he hasn't had his field. Out to Bracken gets it into the centre. Back out to Lynch again. Kinnegad coming forward in droves, trying to get that equaliser. It's back out again. Lovely ball into Bracken. Bracken is a long way out. He's going to go for the score. And all Bracken, we called him as man of the match earlier on, Luke. And look, he's almost dead straight in front of the goal. Takes a strike at it and pops it up and over the bar. It's a lead again for St. Loman's. Can kick into this game. The running game surely will help them this time. Jason Lynch goes through the centre. 3 or 4 men come through, but he's intercepted, and all of a sudden St. Loman's back in the attack again. It's given a free. Shane Dempsey, Fola is on his shoulder, gives it into Fola. Is Fola going to finish the game? Here he is! What a goal! Fola Iorindy with an absolute cracker. And Shane Fleming goes over to remonstrate with him, but I think, have we had the final whistle? Yes, that's the final whistle. There it goes, Luke Dempsey. It's all over here at a kind of an inauspicious end here. A little bit of shenanigans going.
Played in absolutely atrocious conditions. Let's be fair about that. But what a game!
Yeah, it was really a fantastic game of football. It was like the fact now that games are divided up into quarters with the water breaks. You could really say that each quarter was significant for both clubs. The first quarter, Kinnegad, Loman's allowed Kinnegad the kickouts, which I thought was a little bit dangerous from a Loman's perspective. But Kinnegad really erred by bringing the ball out and then taking it into the tackle and giving the ball back to Lomans, who, by the way, had got off to the best possible start with the throw-in breaking nicely to Sam
17 seconds.
Yeah, Sam then brings it on in and offloads Peter Foy and a very good goal. So, but nonetheless, Kinnegad were the architects of their own downfall in that first quarter by giving away the ball so often. And we all thought at that stage, if that continues, this is going to be a cakewalk. But they rectified that. They started to carry it a little bit better. Superb long ball in by Darren Giles into Jack Thorpe, who's always dangerous. Really made a game of it. And in the third quarter, again, it was all Kinnegad. and it wasn't until Loman's rectified their positional system by bringing in Ken Casey, who was excellent in that final period, and Shane Dempsey as an out-and-out corner forward, that they got back on top with a superb display by Ronan O'Toole in that last quarter. I mean, never seen him shoot as well. One particular point stands out from the far sideline, but the following two brought the game level. And when they went a point up, you could only see one winner, especially when John Heston had moved out to the middle third, where Kinnegad were totally dominant in the middle, in that third quarter. John Heston then wins a few kickouts. I mean, he's a fantastic stalwart for that club.
And a leader, Luke.
Absolutely.
Which is what they needed at that stage, because let's be honest, at the end of the third quarter, they were trailing by 3 points. And maybe even lucky to be only trailing by 3 points.
Yeah, he took the game by the scruff of the neck, along with Kelvin Riley playing in front of him. Another very experienced player. And I must say that I'm delighted to see, for his sake, because nobody tried as hard when I was there to get up to that level. It was Darragh O'Keefe. He had a great game, got a lovely point. So between that system changing with John going to midfield, Kelvin mopping up, they were getting good ball in. Ken Casey was coming out to that middle third as well, and he's so clever on the ball. They got on top in the final quarter, and I thought were deserving winners then by 4 points. But you'd have to say that Kinnegad have made some improvement over the last year, and it put on a fantastic spectacle for us in awful conditions. And one player in particular, I thought, Owen Bracken, number 7, was outstanding. Along with many others like Darren Giles. If Darren Giles shakes off all the injuries he's been plagued with, next year Kinnegad are going to be a serious threat if they keep all their players fit. But Darren Giles, Ger Leach combination, linking up with the younger players, were really, really good, and they put it right up there to St. Loman's.
Yeah, and look, we were both at the game after 10 minutes. we were nearly getting our coats to maybe head for the gate at that stage, 1-4 to no score, and just been absolutely torn to shreds. But I thought tremendous heart from Kinnegad. I thought, they knuckled down. They never panicked really as such. And after being so far behind, they actually led going into half time by 1-6 to 1-5 by that goal. Like Darren Giles' ball was worth the admission money. It was a great finish by Torpy, don't get me wrong. But I thought the ball that Giles hit in, like, what was it, 30-40 yards in over the head of the full back and right into the palm of Jack Torpy to slot to the back of the net. And when they went 3 points up in the second half, in my opinion, they should have gone for the jugular at that stage. Throw caution to the wind and keep going at it. Instead of that, maybe they try to defend that 3 point lead. And you don't do that against the calibre of forward that St. Loman's had.
It's not so much that they try to defend it, it's the excellence of some of the Loman's players came to the fore. And they changed their system to suit those players in that final quarter. Like Ronan O'Toole who had been quite anonymous because there was nothing for him inside. And there was one occasion where Peter Foy was actually caught for overcarrying because he looked up. There was nothing inside. So it was when they changed that system to have a more orthodox full forward line that they got on top. And I thought maybe it's easy to say in hindsight, but if Kinnegad had changed and maybe a man marker onto Ronan O'Toole at that particular juncture, because he was nearly gone out of control from a positive point of view. He could not miss. But he was given that freedom, and it was that their key players came to the forefront at the critical juncture, which is the last 15 minutes of every game. And that's why, from the outset and from all the times it was coming in here, that they have that panel. They have a good, strong panel. They're able to bring players on and off, have a different system. Like they allowed Kinnegad have the kickouts at one stage, then when they pressed up, then they had no forwards at one stage, then they have... So they're able to juggle around a system because they have such talented players, and it's a good luxury to have. And I think it will stand to them in the county final. Yeah,
I thought, Tom, I don't know if you watched it on the Every TV. I thought up to a certain juncture, it looked as if Kinnegad were actually going to burst through that barrier. Like Loman's have been the team that an awful lot of clubs have been looking up to over the last while. I mean, you don't get the county finals year on year by luck. It is by design and by huge work rate. And by excellent footballers. And, I had to feel a certain amount of sympathy towards the end. I think maybe 4 points might have flattered St. Loman's a little bit.
Yeah, the last goal was slicing the cake for Loman's. It kind of came out of the blue, came over from what Luke said already, the turnover in the middle third.
Yeah.
Was it Shane Dempsey gave it off to Fowler off the shoulder then, and Fowler took it really well, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
And he'd been quiet for big patches
For 59 minutes.
Yeah, he had a good start and he had a good end to it, but when it really mattered, he has the match winning moments in him. Like, that's not the first time we've seen him do that nearly exact same goal. He did the exact same goal for Westmeath against Down, the other end of the field this year. He has that in his locker, like, and I suppose when it really mattered, Luke's touched on it. John came to the centre field, controlled the game. TJ Cox got one score in between Ronan's purple patch.
Yeah.
Ronan was brilliant in that period. He was absolutely outstanding. You also had Ken, you had Shane Dempsey getting involved. All their Loman's key players at that time put their shoulder to the wheel and dragged them over the line. Like, it was a real champions display. Like, they weren't going to get better than that when the backs against the wall.
To me, it looked like a little bit of experience over youth and vigour. If I'm being totally honest, I thought Kinnegad, for their youth, showed absolutely tremendous heart all the way throughout.
I thought after the first 15 minutes, their youth was there. They were kicking the ball inside. Even when Lomas had the sweeper and they were kicking it inside, they'd win that first phase ball. But it was that second phase, the half forward line wasn't close enough to him to get it off the shoulder. They were isolated. Like, we'll have a clip in a minute where we see Loman's giving the kick out, to kick it inside. Kinnegad player wins it. I think it was Callum in that case, but wins it, comes out, gets turned over and decided there's no support for him. And at that stage you're kind of thinking, right, Loman's have them here now.
Yeah, it's a long day.
It's going to be, had that feel to it, but...
Yeah, I mean, an important point is, and we can make reference to it as well when we talk about the Downs of Garrycastle, is that both Kinnegad and the Downs were left for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And without playing any competitive football.
We talked about this on Sunday as well, Luke, and I think it had a major effect on both games.
If you go into the first quarter, and you just mentioned it there, Thomas, a lot of the Kinnegad play was played that we didn't see in the second, third or fourth, in that long, hopeful balls into forwards that were outnumbered.
Yeah.
It was really a sign of the passion that was overflowing maybe and in the dressing room before the match. Let's go out and drive, and it was over the top, and they were being turned over.
Yeah.
So that delay, and you take the match between Lomans and Colliery, which was really a tough, torrid affair.
Means it definitely stood to Lomans anyway, definitely.
And it stood to Garrycastle.
Yeah.
So it is something that can be debated about that long layoff, because you can't get that championship fervour in challenge matches or in condition games.
Yeah.
There's nothing like matches, and it does show in this particular, and in other years as well, that coming third and fourth in that group is
not to your detriment.
Yeah, because the first quarter, I felt sorry for Kinnegad in that they were just being constantly turned over, and yet they were being given the ball.
Yeah.
And if you give a team the ball, and that's what happened as the game went on, they were really useful with it, running it through the hand into, like some of the scores, a long ball into Darren Giles once when he tapped it out to Ger Leach, a superb point. Callum Cruz then when he was not with 3 players on him, and they really, really played fantastic football for 3 quarters of that match.
Will they rue the fact that they were so close, maybe, or is that, as we talked on Sunday, is that just a building block for a future for that team? Like we remarked on it, and both of us remarked on Bracken. He scored a point, but it was his general contribution. I thought was absolutely immense.
If Kinnegad sort out their midfield, and you're talking about these 19-year-olds being a year older next year.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, they would have to look on this year as a fantastic step up from last year, and the way they played in earlier rounds, and the way they played for a lot of that match, with some exemplary scores.
Weren't overawed, really. You're playing against the county champions, probably one of the best clubs in, not alone in the county, but maybe even in Leinster. Presuming
that they hold on to their manager, they're a year older, and the big thing in Kinnegad is that they avoid injuries to their key players. And I'm talking the likes of Darren Giles there. You know, they'll have Breen Cooney from the school in Rocherbridge coming a year older. He's had a lot of injury issues as well.
Shane Fleming, of course, who didn't start at the weekend, who has been great for Dan Leach, another young player coming through, who has been plagued with injury, I suppose. And even Darren Giles himself, you know, has only played on a limited basis during the year.
And it's a mad, passionate town for football, and they're on the way up.
Yep.
And fair play to them for putting up a fantastic spectacle last Sunday.
Did the stats show anything for us, Tom?
No, to be fair, it was very close in everything in it. Kickouts, both teams won 75% of kickouts. Turnovers, 24 piece, and chance conversion rate, Loman's edged at 73-70. So both teams would have been very happy with that. Like
that's a serious conversion rate. Like
both teams' shot selection was brilliant on today. Like,
well, we were just commenting. Loman shot 3 wides and Kinnegad shot 6. Like in any game, to say that you're going to shoot 6 wide, score 113, and you're still going to be beaten. There's very few games that will happen in. But it was just, I thought the general play on an absolutely atrocious conditions, the ground had to be extremely heavy. Like they went pell-mell at it from virtually the throw-in, and it was just wonderful to watch. I thought
it was actually quite interesting, the first goal, because it obviously was a pre-planned move, because you see John coming out to the left corner forward position, emptying out that middle channel, and when it comes down, John's 15 yards away from the play, the fullback's 15 yards away from the goal mouth as well. So it's interesting that they probably worked on that all year, and it works. Perfect timing for them in that.
Even in that first few minutes, though, whatever pre-planned the Technicali had, it was obviously working, because they cut Kinnegad wide open, and it was virtually through the centre. The major players, shall we say, the likes of John or Ronan O'Toole, they weren't involved in the play at all. It was the guys that were coming through the centre, the likes of Peter Foy, who came through it at huge pace to get onto it, and even Sam McCartney, like, they cut through them so much. But in fairness, Kinnegad kind of reset just before the water break, and after the water break then it was completely the opposite. And I think the Kinnegad goal possibly was one of the turning points in that, insofar as that at that stage they probably thought, you know, we've a chance here.
That was evident in these few clips here. Like, you're talking about Declan's plan here, and this is just a short kick out. Lomans have dropped off at this stage. You can see here now he's getting to carry it, and Ronan's engaging here, but again, it's not a token gesture, but he's trying to shout him away. He knows what he's doing. They're buying time for him to get set up at the back, and you'll see here, ball's kicked in by Gerald Leach, and there's what they wanted. They got their +1 in there from that short kick out. Cut off that supply line. Again, another example of it here. In the second clip again, we'll see Loman's just backing off, letting them have that short kick out again. And it's similar again, let them carry it out. They look up. And in this one, they actually win it. It's a good ball inside, but the problem is here when you stop it, he's on his own. So the ball's kicked in, he brings it out into trouble. Lomans have got him exactly where they want now. Loman's back's probably licking their lips here saying, we've got him where we want him. Again, turnover, and Lomans are away. So again, even from them short kickouts, they have it. At this stage, the game, Lomans, to be fair, Kinnegad at this stage, just before half-time, had changed their game. They kind of gone to a bit more of a run game, forced Loman's hand a bit. Lomans pushed out the sweeper, and you'll see here, it's the one time in the first half that I could find anyway that Lomans didn't have the +1 in there. They didn't have the man in front. You see Darren here, and the ball's kicked inside here.
This is the goal.
Yeah, this is the goal. So it's kicked inside here. He's 1-on-1. It's the first time they actually get him 1-on-1. And again,
it was just a tremendous ball. And in fairness to young Tarpey, he still had a little bit to do when he got it. And I'm not totally convinced, look, he was at full fitness either. You seen him towards the end of the game, he got extremely tired. But one thing both of us commented on, Jordan watching the game, was the gaps that were between the forwards and backs. When Lomans were defending, there was one St. Lomans player in the opposition half of the field. I think we noted that on numerous occasions. So they had that defensive setup, and whether Kinnegad just by design or by maybe a small bit of fortune, but they played across that then and decided they were going to go at it in a different way, and it certainly worked for them. Leading coming into half time, where, you know, after 15 minutes, as we said on commentary, it looked all over. But it was just such a battle, and it wasn't. I don't know, was it overly physical? It wasn't in any way dirty, in my opinion, that I could remember anyway. You know, there was nothing you could say, you know, this fella deserves to be on the line, or that fella, that was a heavy tackle. Now, it was hefty hitting in it as well. But in the conditions, you know, it was pedal to the metal from word go. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a wonderful game of football and could have gone anywhere but for the intervention of some of the substitutes, particularly in my opinion for St. Loman's, kind of turned the tide. I think the introduction of Ken Casey allowed a bit of freedom for Ronan O'Toole. Yeah. I think the Kinnegad began to look, well, there's more than Ronan O'Toole to look after here. You know, they look for Casey, they look for John Heslin, and when Heslin came out then to the centre of the field, because they hadn't won a whole lot of ball prior to that, Luke, in fairness.
Yeah, we were just saying that in the third quarter it was Kinnegad had Darren Giles, Ger Leach,
Wayne Fox
in that middle third, and they were winning a lot of the breaking ball, 50-50 balls, but like a game is won over the hour, and especially in the last quarter, Loman's had really tidied up an awful lot of the play that had seen them err prior to that, and it was, as you say, the introduction of I thought Ken Casey was
he was instrumental,
an excellent introduction, just by calming down the play, making sure that they weren't kicking the ball away, retaining the ball, and Shane Dempsey was very dangerous, and it was his block down of Ger Leach coming out that led to that goal. And I thought Fola has become a very important cog in the wheel of St. Loman's throughout that game, in and out, but like the way he had the fitness levels to get up to Shane Dempsey's shoulder and finish with such a fantastic goal, like credit where it's due, you know, in that sense that they are a good outfit, and I would expect a really good county final now, going back to 2 years ago when we were 7 points ahead of them.
I don't want to mention the war, look. I really don't want to mention the war.
But, you know,
I have Loman's people in the year since that day. But anyway.
But Garrycastle, you know, themselves had a torrid enough start to the championship, and their performance against Mullingar Shamrocks was fantastic. Yeah. And in the first period against...
And maybe they didn't get the credit for that performance, look. Like, Shamrocks were very, very poor on the day. But having said that, you don't knock up scores like Garrycastle knocked up if you're not playing fairly well. And they proved that again. As much as St. Loman's, who were... I seen them in both their opening games, and they were particularly poor in both those games.
Yeah, but see, they're past masters of the Westmeath Championship and know how to see it out. Yeah. And within the Westmeath Championship, we said this before, there's 6 teams, you have 5 matches. You can get through by winning 2 matches. You have to pace it. Yeah. That it's a marathon, you know, not a sprint. Yeah. And early on games, you have teams that are flying fit, and they might have got new managers in, so they're going to be peaking,
pick it up
early on. And Garrycastle have been there for so many years, as Loman's have. So the 2 teams have come to the top of the pack now, and really looking forward to the county final.
Yeah, as we said, the second semi-final was an absolute thriller. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the first semi-final, which we're going to go on to now, between Garrycastle and the Downs. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TEG Cusick Park. You're all very welcome to AirV TV. Paul Doolan here on commentary, and I'm joined this afternoon on co-commentary by Paul O'Donovan for this afternoon's senior football, the Shea Murta Senior Football Championship semi-final for Garrycastle, who has stood up well in this championship. Bill Kelly, another one, an unheralded player, I suppose, here to say it. And then we go to the opposite extreme, Doranhart, who has been there, done that, and has worn the t-shirt. Ball into Gardner. Gardner ships it on to Mulvihill. Mulvihill now with a goal chance, and he strikes a goal. It's a goal! It's a goal! It's a goal after 2 minutes. Owen Mulvihill came from absolutely nowhere. Nobody. One of my standout players in this year's championship, a young lad, but a really, really great fielder of the ball. But it's Garrycastle have got the absolutely perfect start here. Monaghan now ships it on, and again those gaps are developing in that forward line. John Gaffey into the forward line, into Alex Gardner. He absolutely shot the lights out here against Terrace Pass early in this championship. That's a beautiful ball across the square. Another goal chance here for Garrycastle. There's a second goal. A second goal, Tom O'Halloran. Foul on Peter Murray that time, and Niall Mitchell noticeably has come out from the full forward position. He's come way out the field. Takes the ball back again. This time he takes it from Kieran Nolan. Mitchell now across the field.
looking for Martin, and Ian Martin gets it into his hand and he calls for the mark. It's going to be a chance. Ian Martin with a lovely kick of the ball. That's a lovely score from Ian Martin. Huge pace. Gaffey now through the centre, looking for Gardner again, and again Gardner is out in front and in acres of space, tries to turn his man, gets past Charlie Drum the first time on the right foot, ships it back in again. Huge space in front of Monaghan here, and he pops that one up and over the bar. Andrew Monaghan. No, it's early doors of course yet, Paul, but if you wanted to start to a game, that's the ideal start. You wanted to be leading by 6 points so early in the game. It's now for the Downs to try, and they have to got to chase this one, much as Garrycastle had to do in the league phase of this one, where the Downs got the great start. That's a lovely kick. Is it over the bar? It is. That's a super score, an absolutely super score. Conor Murray this time. And again,
such a playing a sweeper, certainly they're not as effective if they are.
It looks like Dara Egerton might even be gone back now into that sweeping role, but it's Michael Monaghan coming through with the ball. They're one of the three Monaghan brothers here today, and that's up and over the bar. A rather simple whistle. Garrycastle back on the attack again. Super ball into Jimmy Dolan. Dolan again. It's the acres of space that Jimmy Dolan is in. Charlie Drum goes out to meet him. Looked like a foul to me, but Dolan ships the tackle and Jimmy Dolan pops it up and over the bar. And that's how you answer it. Kelly to get a hand in there to try and stem the tide. It's passed on again. It's Conor Murray now. Murray still in retention of the ball. Ships it on out to his corner forward, who's Andrew Kilmartin. Again, Jonathan Lynham looking to get it into Mitchell, and does get it into Mitchell. Mitchell ships it back out. Chance of a score here now. Kevin O'Sullivan, is this one good? Yes, it is. Kevin O'Sullivan gets it up and over the bar, and that was...
Yeah, that was a disappointing ball there from Jonathan Lynham, and an aimless ball into the middle.
Jimmy Dolan takes it, and he's gone by him. Dolan steps by, he's heading towards goal. Coming to meet him is Joe Morden, but Jimmy Dolan is dragged down. That looks like it's a free in. It's on very close to the edge of the penalty area. I think Jimmy is looking...
And it's a yellow card
for Joe Morden. And I think that's the least he could have expected anyway, definitely. But this is a simple, just a pure tap over free here. I think it's Tom O'Halloran that's going to take this one. And he just pops it over with a minimum of force. That's exactly what wild clearance out to Johnny Lynham, and Johnny Lynham is on his own here. Luke Loughlin now. Loughlin trying to get the Downs into another score. Joe Morden takes it on again. Turns around. Loughlin heading goalward, trying to find a space, but instead of that he takes a shot, and that's another wide, and that's a sixth wide for the Downs, Paul, and that has been a telling statistic as well. It is the kickouts. They're not dominating as they are in their forward line. They're definitely stuck in that ball in towards Mitchell. Mitchell gets up and grabs it this time. Shifts it on this time. Is this a goal chance? Kevin O'Sullivan in goal! Kevin O'Sullivan. It's a Charlie Drum actually. I think it's actually the full back. But somehow they get to it. Nice ball again, looking for Mitchell on the edge of the square. Conor Murray ships it into Mitchell. Out it comes to Ian Martin. Ian Martin going for another goal, and that's gone out for a 45. A good block that time. Not to the chagrin, I suppose, at the time of the Garrycastle. They actually didn't think it was a free at all that night. Luke Loughlin now, high ball in, looking for Mitchell again. Is he going to get a hand to it? He does! No! And that's just about... I think Sean Brennan actually might have got a touch to that.
Great save by...
As we're in the lee of half time, we've actually played a minute extra than we should have. Nugent now showing his absolute pace on it, gives it into Jimmy Dolan. Dolan gets it back, but it's calling it back for a free, and I don't know what he's calling it back for, because that was a goal chance, Paul. There was a goal chance on there. Declan Nugent has whipped it back. A great ball by Jimmy Dolan that time. He shipped it on immediately to Michael Monaghan, who looked like to be in a tremendous amount of space.
I think has he allowed the point? He's allowed the point.
He's allowed the point, yeah.
And a good refereeing in the end. You know, none of the players had stopped. And
I cannot understand why he blew then, so Paul. If he was going, if the play is going to be allowed,
he's also blown for half time.
And he's blown for half time. So it's half time here in the TEG. In TEG Cusack Park, it's 1-4 to the Downs. It's 2-6 to Garrycastle, showing 2-5 on the board, but we think it's 2-6, Paul. Is that correct? Times as a full forward. Alex Gardner with the ball now. Gardner, high ball in, hanging ball in, into Trevor Martin. Trevor Martin drops the ball into Tom O'Halloran and gets it back across the square. It's a goal! A goal! An absolute goal from... What a goal! A fisted goal from Jimmy Dolan.
Yeah, again, Tom O'Halloran had a great game in the quarter final against Shamrocks. Again, adding so much to the Garrycastle attack today.
Dolan,
Great
high
by
ball
Dolan.
in. Height advantage here for Alex Gardner, and Alex Gardner grabs the ball and pops it straight over the bar. And again, if we thought it was
Sheehan's a good goalkeeper too, but everyone makes these mistakes.
yes, absolutely. Joe Morden now gets the ball out to his wing half partner. That's Kieran Nolan. Nolan into Mitchell. Mitchell is on his own in front of goals. He's going to go for goal, is he? Yes, he is, but there's too many men in front of him. I think he was better off to take the score, but it's still a goal chance further down, and that's a great save. Joe Morden now gets the ball out to his wing half partner. That's Kieran Nolan. Nolan into Mitchell. Mitchell is on his own in front of goals. He's going to go for goal, is he? Yes, he is, but there's too many men in front of him. I think he was better off to take the score, but it's still a goal chance further down, and that's a great save. A great save by Sean Brennan. Well, they need to keep that scoreboard ticking over. The Downs coming with pace this time. Out to Loughlin again. Shipped back on. Is it a goal chance this time? It's Martin again, I think, is it? Yes, it is. And it's another super save. Sean Brennan has come to the rescue of Garrycastle once again. I'm not. Ian Egerton is on for Ian Martin. I thought Ian Martin was doing rather well, actually. I'm not quite sure about that substitution. Jimmy Dolan now looking for Gardner. Good look at that ball. Perfectly in front of Alex Gardner. Gardner slips by one. He's going in for goal again. He's going for goal this time. And it's off the post. It's off the bottom of the post, and really this should be over the bar this time, is it? No, it's drifting. It's come off the post again. How many posts are Garrycastle going to hit in this attack? Ball out again. Garrycastle trying their best to get a score here, but it gets broken up. And what a sequence of play we've had there. Off the bottom of the post, then off the post again a second time. Garrycastle butchering maybe a chance there to go even further ahead. Gardner was perfectly entitled to go for goal, but the ball has gone straight up the far end. Andrew Kilmartin now trying to get over and around his man. He does. Gets it back across the square to the substitution. It's Dean Egerton. Dean Egerton, he's blocked. It's all helter-skelter, a block again. It's all over the place. This ball could go anywhere, but eventually it's Sean Brennan. Sean Brennan that comes out with the ball. It's there. I'm not so sure that that's the right one to it.
Again, it was lovely skill by Gardner that time when he slipped inside.
Charlie Drum with a very slippery pass, a poor pass, gives it out to Jimmy Dolan. Jimmy Dolan sees Jason Nugent on his left shoulder. Newson breaking through on goal, and he had a goal chance, but he knocks it over the bar. Another goal chance. Kilmartin lies on the ball. It looked like he might have actually touched that one on the ground, but it wasn't given. It's back out again. The Downs, they're coming, they need a score, they need to get it back across the square. Joe Morden now playing as an auxiliary half forward at the moment. Back out to Luke Loughlin. Loughlin now, he's surely going to look for Mitchell in front of the goal. In the goal for it. Mitchell, it's off. It's gone. It's on over the bar, I think, is it?
Yeah.
Of the second half. The Downs coming now, they're coming at pace. Dale seem to have a bit of legs on them. It's a high ball into Mitchell again. It's dead straight in front of the ball. Mitchell get a touch to it this time, but it's well defended and it's gone out wide. I thought it was
by John Gaffey there.
I thought it was actually John Gaffey got the last touch to that one, if I'm honest. Fourth time to level matters here in the county final last year, and Conor Murray has done the same, has he? No, it's dropped short. It's dropped short. It just, they had the extra game, and definitely they have benefited from that game. It begs the question whether Alex Gardner is going to pop it over the bar again. It's just so simple. A tremendous game for Garrycastle, both in attack and defence. It's a high ball in. It's looking for Mitchell once more. Is it across the goal? It's a goal. It's a goal this time. I think it was Charlie Drum got a goal, got a touch to that one, Paul. Philly now loses control of the ball, Philip Doherty, but somehow gets it back up into the hands of Charlie Drum. Out it goes to Luke Loughlin, back into Philly Doherty. Doherty now, is he going to put it back across the square? That's exactly the modus operandi he goes for. Mitchell goes up for it. Who's going to get to it? Kevin O'Sullivan. It's a goal! It's a goal! A goal for Conor Murray! Lockdown. I'm not so sure that's a clever idea, because if they're going to take on this game, they really need to get another score on the board. There's 4 points between the sides. Cathal Mannion now tries to go through, kicks it off the side of the boot, and Cathal Mannion has put it over the bar. A super score for Cathal Mannion.
Westmeath senior
the Flanagan Cup, yes. On today's to say, Paul, they have to be in the shake-up, and there it goes. There's the final whistle. 36 minutes played here in the game, but it's all over here in TEG Cusack Park. A win for Garrycastle on the scoreline. And look, we can say what we like, you know. Rumours of Garrycastle's demise are greatly exaggerated, in my opinion. You know, I'm one for myself for talking about the age that they have under their belt and experience they have. But when the chips are down, that's when that comes to the fore. Like, you had the likes of John Gaffey, the two McCallans, young Owen Mulvihill, I thought, at the centre of the field for them
was absolutely outstanding. Tom O'Halloran, like they had 2 goals in the space of the first 4 minutes. And at that stage, you know, some of the Downs people even thought themselves it was well out of the reach. The one thing I would say about them is they conceded 3-7, and the 3 goals were virtually identical almost. Big high ball in front of Niall Mitchell, and if he didn't win it, he was knocking it down to someone. The one thing we will say about the Downs, and we've said it here on numerous occasions, is they haven't really got a marquee forward. You know, Luke Loughlin stood up a little bit at the weekend, but in my opinion, you need someone of the, maybe not of the calibre of John Hesson, because that type of player only comes around once in a blue moon, but you need a guy that's going to score 3 or 4 points a game for you, or even 5 or 6 points a game for you, and possibly from play. You certainly need a free taker, which is another thing that the Downs are going to really have to look at. And if you look back at it, they scored 3-7. 2 of those goals were scored by their fullback.
That's right. Well, he's an exceptionally good player. Yeah, young Drum. What's his first name? Charlie Drum. Yeah. And I think at that stage he'd moved out to midfield, and I mean, probably he could be a midfielder for the Downs in the future. Really good player. But you know, the game was, the foundations for Garrycastle's success was laid down in the first quarter, and to have those players that you just mentioned who are very, very good footballers. And I always think, you know, that unless you see those players retiring, gone off the scene, the Doran Harts and Gaffeys and
Jimmy Dolan,
Alex Gardner is a very, very capable forward, and he was excellent last Sunday. And then James Dolan, who we talked about here, we moved up to the forwards. You can see the benefit of that now. John Kane, obviously,
we actually thought that was a detrimental.
But the only
for a long time here, but at the same time,
the only people who know the way the likes of James Dolan is going is the management team and what they're doing in training. So obviously, he is very adept at going into the forwards, and his link-up play was outstanding. And I mean, the players we're mentioning are very, very good footballers. They've been there, and they will relish this match again. You know, so hopefully the management in St. Lomans will have improved enough now to make sure they don't lose a 7-point deficit.
I will have a different manager, of course, as well. We'll probably have a more experienced manager. But were the Downs a little bit naive, maybe, Luke, in the first half in particular? Would that be fair to say, Tom?
Did they go for the juggler too often?
I said it at the time. Like, they kicked 10 wides. Garrycastle kicked a single wide over 60 minutes. And to be honest, young Peter Murray was the sole defender on most occasions in the second half. And but for
him, it would win it.
4 inches to 6 inches over his head, Alex Gardner could have finished with 4 or 5 goals. He was brave, but I thought it was a little bit, you know, for a young player to be marking a guy of the experience of Alex Gardner. And when Gardner did get it, if he didn't score, he made it up. He made it for somebody else. And as you said, James Dolan is just it's so clever of a footballer. That's what I like about him. And if you want to mix it with Jimmy will mix it with you too. But it was just their movement and like the bypass virtually up to this the Downs half back line were probably their outstanding line. Young Joe Moran, Mark Kelly, Kieran Nolan, they were excellent so far in the championship. But Garrycastle just bypassed that. They went from their own half back line virtually into the full forward end, looking for Gardner. Tom O'Halloran, I thought, was a superb outlet on most occasions, and I just thought, from my where I was watching it, I thought the Downs were a little bit naive in the first half, and the other thing that struck me was they had no plan B. If it wasn't a high ball into Mitchell, you know, it goes back to the halcyon days of Jack Charlton, the Irish football team. If it's not plan A, it has to be plan A. You know, they just bombed it down on them. Now, I haven't said that they got 3 goals out of it, but you're right, Tom. I think you're stating something that probably most were thinking. Were they better off maybe just taking the score?
Yeah, that's it. Like, I'm just going to touch on the first point you made there about Alex Gardner. Like, the influence he had in that game. There's Alex winning it there, laying it off, and he was absolutely brilliant. Alex was fantastic all game at bringing people into the game as well. Like, you'll see here, I think the second...
Young Mulvehill is only 19 years of age as well. Like, he's really, really talented young guy.
Again, here Alex wins it, and he has your man stood up one-on-one, and he looks up and picks out that pass, and it's an absolute brilliant pass to pick out.
It was a great finish.
You know, it was a brilliant finish, but the ball to pick him out, and again here Alex, I just thought he had an outstanding game himself, shooting wise, but also bringing players into the game. I thought it was fantastic. And there's Jimmy. What we talked about, that link up, like that's going to be a huge access for Loman to get a handle on, because the way if Jimmy Dolan and Alex Gardner aren't kept threat on, no, we'll talk about it later stage, but they'll be hard stopped now from.
I think they've even more than that. Like I think the Monaghan's are really, really decent players as well. I thought Tom O'Halloran was excellent. I really did. I thought the killing moment for me was the Downs had kind of got back into the game coming into half time, had started a little bit better in the second half, and all of a sudden a high ball comes in, it's dropped.
Yeah.
Tom O'Halloran is waiting for it, and Tom O'Halloran didn't panic when he got on the ball. He just flicks it across the goal, and who's waiting for it there? Jimmy Dolan to knock it back into the net.
That score was actually a turning point because the Downs were coming back into it, and it was an unfortunate, the sun probably at the time
it was actually, and it was kind of shining down on Trevor Martin at the time, because he's a wonderful keeper. I really rate him. I thought as well, Sean Brennan in goals for Garrycastle made 3 or 4 absolutely super saves at critical moments, it must be said.
And John Gaffey had a couple of superb blocks. Like his performance when he went in full back was outstanding as well. So I mean, I
would be worried a small bit. St. Loman's will have players maybe a little bit more experienced and maybe a little bit cuter. If maybe that's not the word I'm really looking for, but they will punish them a little bit more, in my opinion, than the Downs did. I don't think the Downs punished them enough. Now, having said that, they came up against the brick wall of Brennan. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, these are just some of them here. Like I actually had a highlight here, Sean Brennan. We hadn't touched on him yet, and some of the saves he put were absolutely outstanding. You see Doran Hart there making a last ditch block from.
This is the best of them.
Like that was a brilliant save.
That's the best of them.
Diving at the toes, again here another goal chance, again another save. Without Sean Brennan, there could have easily been 4 or 5 goals. We could be sitting here talking about the complete other result if it wasn't for Sean Brennan. Again, there's John Gaffey for that one. Again, this one coming in, that was fantastic. A fantastic idea by Mitchell. It's something we've seen actually the Kinnegad game where he looked at the.
Yeah, but Brennan didn't panic either. No. Like he let Mitchell do the work as well.
Well, in this last clip here, we're just looking at here. We've seen a similar example of this in the All-Ireland final where Henley came rushing out of his goal.
That's right. Yeah.
Brennan was very composed here, doesn't rush out, and is able to make the save. Whereas if he'd come running out, it's probably curtains, and Mitchell has a goal straight fairly early. And again, that was just Mitchell pissing off. But they created enough goal chances in that game. It's just, could they've kept the scoreboard ticking in between that? The scoreboard was static for long periods.
They kicked too many wides, Tom. Yeah. I think they kicked too many wides over the hour. I think that was the major stumbling block with the Downs. I think they're kind of a common side as well, though. I think they'll learn an awful lot from this year, look.
You'd hope they would. They've been in so many semi-finals now that they could get a little bit frustrated as well, because they are missing a couple of key players at important junctures of a match that will get those crucial scores. So it's debatable. It's going to be a big year for them next year, because
I thought the one place that might dominate Garrycastle, I thought, was around the centre of the field, because I think Jonathan Lynham has been definitely my player at midfield this season, and he didn't really have his best game. I don't mean to criticise the Goss or anything like that, because he's a young man, but I thought himself and Dean Clark weren't really as involved as they had been heretofore, whereas Justin Barrett and Owen Mulvihill were absolutely superb for Garrycastle, whereas I actually thought that might be the opposite way around. But it just goes to show you, when you come to semi-finals, and just go back to your point again, Luke, I think it's very valid. The fact that you're waiting 4 weeks for a game, it certainly didn't help the Downs.
No, it didn't help them, and they weren't like Kinnegad improved as the second quarter went on, but the Downs were playing a similar type game the whole hour, and the only real threat they had, I know they did get a couple of goals through it, was that long ball into Niall Mitchell. They needed a couple
or a plan B. Yeah.
And but look
let's not talk about plan B now. We could be here for the evening now talking about plan B.
If you were asking me about the 2 semi-finals before they were played, I would have said, I think St. Loman's and Garrycastle will get to the county final based on the actual quality of the players that both those squads have, and the fact that they have good strong panels. Now in the case of Garrycastle. They're a more aged team than St. Loman, so it's going to be interesting to what take they have on that, because the clubs around Garrycastle are getting stronger. You've Colliery getting stronger, you've Moat getting stronger, so it's going to be it's I'm sure in Garrycastle they're actually thrilled, given their previous form, to get to this county final, so they'll be wanting to make hay. So it makes for a very interesting county final in Westmeath.
And it's not as if they don't know each other. Like, I mean, they've been at the pinnacle of Westmeath football for so long. Most of these guys that are going to be in a county final, and definitely the two clubs have been probably our best exponents, particularly in Leinster football anyway.
Yeah.
They've kind of shone the light. I mean, Garrycastle win them on, Loman's going close to win them on. So, form is temporary, but class is permanent.
Yeah.
No. It's a county final. I'm thoroughly looking forward to. I'm not so sure it'll be as open as the two games were at the weekend. I think it'll be a little bit tighter and a little bit more defensive from both sides on it, Tom. I don't know what you think on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd say both teams are setting up a lot differently than both did at the weekend. I'd say Lomans might do a similar plan with kick out and get them to drop back in and get someone in front of Alex Gardner and James Dolan. But I'd say that will be where the comparison.
They might have Paddy Dowdle back as well.
He
was sorely missed at the weekend, Luke, in fairness, at times.
Paddy Dowdle,
particularly in that sweeping role,
Yeah, he'll always be missed because he's so dynamic on the ball and fantastic at coming forward. But having said that, Kelvin Riley was excellent at number 6, and
O'Keefe as well, you mentioned
young Jack Gagan is having a tremendous year for an 18-year-old. Mousy Donoghue had a good game. You couldn't say anything about the Loman's backs and who in the full back line. Maybe Davy Whelan is a little bit out of position. I know he preferred to be a wing back, and he was caught under that high ball, which is not surprising given that he's played most of football at wing back. And
young Hogan was dragged out the field, really.
Yeah,
he went way out the field, but he learned
very,
from that.
Very steady throughout.
He has, yeah.
But I mean, like that, the McCallions and Gaffey and Dorn Hart and all these lads have.
It's a different challenge, isn't it?
It's just going to be a very much different match, and you could see a lot of ball played in the first half of the pitch, because Garrycastle won't kick it away.
No.
And they'll be looking for that penetrative run, and Loman's vice versa, be waiting for the likes of Foley to get onto a break or whoever.
Yes.
I think the intriguing battle for me, and I think where the next county final will be decided, funny enough, I think it'll be decided around the centre of the field, where in honesty Lomans have struggled through the year. They've tried out several players at the centre of the field, even brought Sean Flanagan on as a sub last Sunday. It hasn't been their. It's been a bit of their Achilles heel during the year, and even in the last couple of years. And I think Garrycastle have two very, very good midfielders. Now, whether or which, it's going to be an overload as we're expecting, with an awful lot of players from both sides gathering around that middle of the field. But I think that centre from the 245s. I think that's where the game is going to be won and lost, to be honest. I know you have to score, and it's all about scoring, but I think personally that's where the game is going to be won and lost. Yeah. And look, we might have different heroes the next day. The one thing I would worry about for Garrycastle is Jack Donoghue came off and he didn't look well coming off. Mm-hmm. If I'm honest, he looked like a lad that was injured, that had maybe played with an injury, and he came off. It's a little bit of a worry for them. I don't think Garrycastle have the strength in depth maybe that St. Loman's have, so they will want everybody fit and ready. And of course Cathal Mannion with a straight red card then later on in the game for pure silliness, in my opinion.
It might be rescinded.
I seen the incident, and I definitely think it'll be overturned. Personally, I think it'll be overturned.
It doesn't look like much now, to be fair. It looks like he just gives him a little shove in the chest. So.
He was the third man in, and I think he bore the brunt of a lot of frustration, and there was a lot of frustration on the part of the Downs at that stage as well, because maybe at that stage the game was gone from the sides. But look, it's a county final, it's a Flanagan Cup. I'm absolutely really looking forward to it. I'd look forward to it even more if my own club are in it, but that's neither here nor there. I think it's an intriguing battle. Yeah. And it's going to be one for all our viewers on Air VTV. It's if you don't buy another match for the year, I think that's the one to buy. It may not be to everybody's taste. I think it might be a bit of a defensive battle, but it'll certainly be intriguing. And I think it could go right down to the wire.
Yeah,
and even
and
at this stage,
like that,
I would find it very hard.
like that, matches that we can sort of think are going to be defensive and can often prove to be quite the opposite. You know, so it could be a fantastic game of football. We're after seeing some great matches in this year's championship. It's been an outstanding championship, you know. And I mean, I'm even looking forward, say, to the intermediate final now, because we've got a couple of novel pairings in that as well. So you know, there was a great weekend, there as well.
Speaking of which, we'll move on straight away to our intermediate semi-finals, and they were both played at 4:00 on Saturday. St Malachy's against Milltown Pass, and to be honest, I have to put my hand up to all our Milltown Pass people that are watching out there. Congratulations to you. You're doing it in spite of me. If you want me to tip Tang to win the final, that's exactly what I'll do, because
Tang tip there now.
it's looking it's almost a motivating factor. I didn't think they'd win a quarter final. I certainly didn't think they'd win the semi-final, but they're just defying the odds, and it just goes again, Luke, they're timing the run at the perfect time as well.
Yeah, Milltown Pass, Brandon Kelly being fit is crucial to their rise to this county final, because he's a great foil, say, for Finbar Coyne up front. I know Finbar was quite enough in the match against St Malachy's, but other players came to the fore, especially the Rileys, you know, Noel and Liam were excellent. And they are really playing well. They had a fantastic win over their near neighbours, Rocher Bridge, and that was a great game of football. And they brought it in with this against probably, as we all agreed here, the favourites St Malachy's with David Lynch.
Well, I actually seen these play in
the group stage.
In the group stage, the final game of the group stage, where Malachy's were already qualified at that stage, so it didn't really mean a whole lot to them, but it certainly meant a lot to Milltown Pass. And I thought Milltown Pass were very poor against a Malachy side that were missing several key players, and they still dominated the game. But it just goes to show you, like, when the chips are down, they're a knockout team. You know, we've said this about them on numerous occasions. There's a great goal, like, you know, out of nothing, really.
It was the pace and power that brought it right through the middle at times. Like Liam O'Reilly, straight through the middle there. We see an aerial clip there, Noel O'Reilly going through the middle. They were just brilliant. They went right through them with pace and power. Like, with Gavin Glennon there, they have a bit of fight in the middle of the field there in that area as well. Like, so, you know, I thought they got a lot of stuff right at the weekend. I thought Alan Mangan was absolutely brilliant in the first half.
Yeah, we were wondering about his substitution at half time, Thomas. We were wondering, was he injured, or because he was having a good effect?
He scored two very good frees in the first half, and he got the first score as well, which I thought was well taken as well at the time. And he was just, even the little movements he was making was causing a bit of trouble to Milltown Pass early on. He came off then at half time. Again, they had a different threat. Angus came on in the second half.
Who hasn't played all year.
Yeah. And he got very unlucky for the goal chance. Goal fell to him, and he probably just a tiny bit unlucky there. Owen Garrity got the foot to it and tipped it onto the post, and they got away with it. But you know, in terms of it, I thought half time there was absolutely nothing in it. We'll see here, it was 1-5 to 6. Wasn't much in it now, to be fair, when you're watching back in the video. I didn't think there was much you could call either team. David Lynch was brilliant going forward for him.
Yeah.
Again, everything good that Malachy's did, David Lynch was part of. And that's some one-sided game. It's massively improved in the last year and a half. It's his go-forward play. He always had an absolute wonderful engine.
Yeah, that was
But his go-forward...
super goal there.
It was brilliant taken.
Yeah.
He's got very good now going forward, David Lynch. That side of the game massively improved.
It's the physicality I like about Milltown Pass as well. You know, I think that the harder ground in the summer just doesn't suit them, because they're a bigger, stronger physical side, in my opinion. And I think when the ground gets that little bit more, you know, harder to work through, I think they put the shoulder to the wheel. And look at, if they want to defy the odds, if they want to
see Brandon coming in here, that's a lovely pass.
He's just a class act. Like, I mean, he can cut through any defence, in my opinion, because he has every skill. He has pace, he has power. He's great insight as well. You know, he's a very clever young man. And
still, it took this, you know, this fortuitous enough. The keeper was.
Yeah, and I suppose it's something Malachy's are going to rue. Well, they've 12 months to rue over it now, because, you know, they really fancied their chances in the intermediate championship this year, having topped the group and probably the form team going into the playoffs.
To be fair, did Finbar well marshalled as well, which is, you know, they're the first team to really get a good handle on Finbar this year. Liam, I thought, did a great job. Liam Vardy did a great job.
Yeah.
I suppose you probably going into that game, they probably thought if they can keep Finbar quiet, they're 1 foot in the final.
Yeah.
And they did do that. They kept them quiet, to be fair, in this game.
It's something that was remarked to me afterwards. Did the hurling win from the week before for Castletown, did it have an effect on the Malachy's players insofar as they put so much effort into beating Clonkill the week before? An awful lot of those players would be dual players. It was remarked to me, and it's something
that's
I said.
a very good point. Like, it's very, very difficult when you've week on, week off at such high level at this time of the year to keep it going. If you're a
And they
dual
hadn't
player.
played football. Look, they were similar. They were similar. We were talking about the
4
Downs
weeks,
and Kinnegad. They had 4 weeks off as well. Now I know they had hurling in it.
There's the goal chance, and there's a good save by Owen, flicks it out, tips it onto the post, but
It was a turning point, definitely. You know, and look at. I hope the Milton Pass people, they can hate me all they want. I really don't care. I'm delighted you're in the final. I want to see the best final possible. I'm not going to tip you. I'm not going to tip you.
Again, Andy Devine came in and
It just goes to show you,
clever
Luke,
player.
again, form is temporary, class is permanent. He did the same in the game against Rocherbridge when the game was in the melting pot.
Yeah.
And he comes on, kicks a lovely score, just to keep the scoreboard ticking
That's
over.
right.
Maybe something, we were talking about the Downs earlier on, going a bit early for goals. You know, Milton Pass are a great team for just keeping the scoreboard ticking over. You know, keep the momentum,
the
you know.
strength here, you know, was, then this was
that was the unfortunate.
most unfortunate, But I like that he was going for a point. You know, he's not afraid to turn around and
he's
have
brave,
a go, and the Brandon following in. So I think they're playing very well.
They are.
As the knockout stage comes up, they're the form team, Luke.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard on Malachy's, and we know, you know, they're a quality side, and they're probably a senior team in waiting, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think your point
definitely
earlier
think
about, when you're getting ready for a hurling semi-final and your training is interrupted then for the footballers and vice versa.
Yeah.
It really, but both Harney and Castletown are similar in that way. But you know, when you're in management and you have a lot of your players going off to a different code. At an important week's training,
an extremely important juncture in the game.
It can be very frustrating, and on the players then you will be tired and you might get injured and you might be carrying little niggles that you wouldn't necessarily have. It is tough going when you're part of a dual club.
And they probably played two football games or two hurling games in the period since their last football game.
That's correct, yeah.
Do you know,
Pollard, or they played Pollard in what was virtually a knockout game, and then they played.
So a lot of their attention would have had to switch onto the hurling to keep that.
Which is
hard. They've done it so well for years.
It's probably most of those lads would be hurlers as such. I know that doesn't sound right, but they would hurling would be probably their first love for the vast majority of those players.
Most of them lads
are inter-county hurlers,
you know, so it's going to come that way.
Like Liam Varley, who was absolutely, you know, out of this world the previous week, to lift your game to try and to win a football match the week after being, like, I mean, he was just completely outstanding here in the hurling semi-final the week before. And I suppose, look at Milton Pass again, Luke. They've come through a similar path to Garrycastle and St. Loman's in the senior football. They've kind of snuck through.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, when the momentum is there, when the chips are down, they're now in the driving seat. In my opinion, I think they're in the driving seat. I actually was at this. I was on commentary for the second game of Kieran Galvin in a game in Athlone. Wonderful. Athlone was in wonderful condition, but as every pitch is at the moment, it was very heavy weather. Now, if you'd have said to me that the winner of the intermediate championship was coming out of this game at half time, I would have told you were absolutely crazy. Save your money, because it was a half an hour of my life I'm never going to get back. It was atrocious stuff at times. But having said that, it's a semi-final. You don't know, players are a little bit, on the edge. It's trying not to make a mistake as opposed to trying to create something. Castle Daly definitely did dominate. They were excellent in it.
They dominated until Alan Stone came off, unfortunately. When Alan came off, they just lost that that pivotal player at 6 to keep that middle.
They did, and Fergal Hines unfortunately got a bad injury, and they were going very well coming up to half time, but Tang got a couple of nice scores just before the break when they needed them. But as you can see there on some of the highlights, some of their shooting was just abysmal. It must be said. Now, what did turn the game for them was Conor Marlowe didn't start; he came on as a sub. Aidan Burke didn't start; he came on as a sub. Scored 2 absolute worldies of points.
Ron Hanley come to half.
Ronan Hanley came out as a halfback, and then Martin Rock came on the second half, which, in my opinion, turned the game completely on its head. Castledaly did have a goal chance, and I don't know if we have the footage of it. They thought it might have even been a penalty. Fergal Hines was going for the ball. Kieran Duncan looked to have got to it first from our position here, so I'm not quite sure what it looks like on the video. But in the first half, Castledaly were just shooting the lights out. The bottom line for Castledaly is, and they can complain about anything they wish, they kicked 2 scores in 27 minutes, I think.
And they only got 1 shot off in extra time.
And only got 1 shot off in extra time.
The players that did so well in the first
for
half.
a club that were coming back from senior, I thought their fitness levels, like a young Turley, I thought, at the centre of the field, Adam Turley, I thought he was tremendous. We commented on his mullet. His choice of hairstyle now might leave a lot to be desired, but he was absolutely excellent. And these are the scores that made the difference, in my opinion. Tang got a couple of scores just before half time. Aidan Burke had come on as a sub at that stage because Adam Neary, I think, went off injured. They had Shane Coughlin in a corner forward, who was virtually anonymous for the first few moments because obviously Castledaly had man-marked him and earmarked him for special attention. And he ran riot in the second half.
And just that clip there we just have seen there of Alan Stone come out defence, that's what they missed in the second half. They missed being able to carry that ball through that middle third like Alan Stone can do. And he was brilliant on the first half. And the second half they couldn't get enough ball to Larkin, they couldn't get enough ball to the Heavens.
They didn't win a whole lot of clean ball at the centre of the field either.
Alan coming out of that area just disrupted them.
Fergus Farlow for Tang was exceptional in the second half. I think there's a clip of him there. He plucked some absolutely wonderful balls aside. And my 2 stars, in my opinion, were the 2 cornerbacks. Handy, as you've mentioned, Thomas, I thought he had a super game. But also in the other corner, they had a Conan McKiernan, who was absolutely brilliant. And he put his body on the line on numerous occasions. The introduction of Martin Rock was the turning point in this game, in my opinion. Now, having said that...
Niall Bannon came back on and scored 1-2, 1-3.
Exactly, who was totally ineffectual up to that.
He came back on and scored 1-3 in extra time, which is huge.
The scoreline flatters Tang greatly.
Yeah, it does, to be fair.
Even Tang people will say that it did flatter them greatly. Mm-hmm. But when the chips were down, it's that bit of experience, I suppose, Luke, that we're talking about the whole time. They're trying for so long to get that monkey off their back. They're called the nearly men. They're almost insulted down the south of the county that they're just the nearly men. They can't win a title. Castledaly have won a senior title in the not too distant past, and I thought their fitness levels coming up for a team that have just come down now as senior. It was actually Tang finished like an absolute freight train. This was a great chance for a goal actually. Yeah. Came back off the crossbar, came back off everything. They were extremely unlucky. It was given as a free out, I think.
Hard in Castledaly because you got to remember Paddy Holloway has been kept
injured
together.
For most of the season,
Ting came off in the semi-final injured as well.
Davy Stone. Yeah.
Alan Stone came off injured. That's going to take a huge effect on the panel, and especially
the biggest problem for me was the biggest problem for me. And I said it at the quarter-final stage was Larkin Dolan kicked the lights out. He kicked some absolutely wonderful points.
Did again,
but Larkin Dolan spent more time in his own half of the field than he did in the attacking end of the field. I think this is one of the scores, is it? This is the one where he kicks it over the shoulder or off the outside of the boot. He was just tremendous at times in it.
Here it is now. I think it loops back.
I think this is the one that loops back and he kicks it over with the outside of the boot. It's an absolutely fantastic score. And we were directly behind that looking on it. And at that stage even, you would have said Castledaly
10-6 up at that stage, 25 minutes playing well at that stage,
They were, but they never pushed on, Tom. They were a little bit like Kinnegad maybe. They might have tried to or thought they were going to defend a 6-point lead or a 4-point lead. And you can't do that against any team because these guys, they'll just keep going at you. Young Jack Keenan for Tang, he was anonymous, we have to say, for the first half of the game. But he came completely into his own in the second half. And as I said, the players that stepped up, particularly, like there's a goal chance. The that they had. They could have got a goal. No, I haven't said it. Castle Daly could have got a goal. It was a thoroughly entertaining 40 minutes, shall we say?
Yeah.
But prior to that, it was instantly forgettable at times, and you know it's a contrast in styles. Look, it's going to be a complete contrast in styles.
Yeah, I think
with the Miltown Pass style and the Tank style, they're completely different teams.
Yeah, there are two teams that you could, at the start of the championship, say, well, definitely will be in the playoff section. Like Miltown Pass have been knocking on the door there now for the last few years. Louis Ennis has gone in and has been playing really fast, quick football, has subs to bring on now, has his key players playing exceptionally well. Tang have always been thereabouts. Yeah. They've gone through different management setups in the last few years. And
they've won their own now as well.
Yeah, and in that sense, this great resilience that they showed in extra time, where they'll be smarting about this now in their preparation for the county final. It's going to be a tough intermediate final, and both teams would just love to get into the senior ranks when they'd see some of the teams in the second section in the B section of. And they will feel they're as good as them.
And I think both of them are more than capable, Luke.
Well, very much
at senior level. I think they really are now. And I think even the 4 semi-finalists, any one of those 4 semi-finalists would be quite welcome at the top table, because I think intermediate football is just a nightmare. It must be a nightmare for a manager, because there are so many teams at a very, very similar level. Is that fair to say?
100%, yeah. I actually thought one person we haven't mentioned yet, Kieran Duncan. I thought he was very good.
Huge experience and carrying a little bit of an injury as well.
Like,
but look at the run and play that Tang adopted when they went so far behind. They were the team that were on the run. They were looking for the guys. There's McKiernan again. Always found a man in space, and if Edinburgh kicks over,
that's a super point to go, point up.
Now they are patched up. There's no denying it. There's quite an amount of their players are extremely patched up, and in my opinion, they're missing their best footballer. John Tumblety has been missing all season. Whether he comes back at all is another story.
This, in my opinion, was a great play by management to get Larkin Dolan out the field, because we often see your key player.
They had to try and get him on the ball, Tom.
I know, but
the game was up, and this is a super score as well. Look at that. I mean, that's quality.
The amount of times we've seen a team lose by pointing, they can't get their shooter on the ball in that last 60 seconds, and we're always saying bring him out the field. They did do that, and they got Larkin on. They got the right man on him when they needed him.
Now there was an absolutely huge crowd at the game. There was I would say the most of South Westmeath were at the game, because there was people from Moat and Colliery, and they were from everywhere, because it's a kind of a local rivalry. I was kind of asking Kieran Galvin, who was in commentary with him, was it a kind of, there's young Hanley, who was absolutely superb, but Keenan as well. He's a young lad, but he's as steady as a rock, you know.
He had a very good game now, especially when it mattered. I think this is Niall's first score out of the extra time, and
this was after him coming back on after being taken off.
And this brought his game to life there. He got the goal now, I think, just directly after.
Yeah, I showed great presence of mind. Management put him back on, and he was crucial. And I mean, you say about the crowd going to it, like Castle Daly and Tang are two great football areas. They love their football there. They've been
even at that stage, Luke, it was 15-13 at the first break in added time, and I was expecting it to be every bit as tight. But Castle Daly faded very badly, and the goal that Tang got, I think it finished the game as a contest. Hanley drops it over. That's the fisted poise from Keenan. Yeah. I think it was just after this that they got the goal. But again, it was Hanley that was the man that was ploughing forward. And I think if Jack Cooney is looking for an attacking corner back or an attacking wing half back, he could do an awful lot worse than having Ron and Hanley in the panel. I think this is the goal.
No, that's the one where Niall just
that's Niall Bannon again.
They lost the kick out there straight away after.
But all of a sudden there, 4 points between the teams, and you could almost sense Castle Daly. The heads were almost down at that stage.
The kick losing
John Rock, or Martin Rock, who had come on as a sub, was absolutely tremendous. Neary again, he was just or Niall Bannon, just when it mattered. And at that stage, Brendan Keane could have blown the final whistle. It's a novelty. It's a novelty final. It's probably two teams that I wouldn't have picked at the start of the season, if I'm being totally honest. But I think, having watched both teams now, I think it has all the hallmarks of a really, really good final. I think it'll be extremely tight.
I think something Luke had mentioned earlier, timing the run correctly.
Yeah.
We were saying going into it, Tang had been good in the group phase.
Yeah, they've had a little bit of a roller coaster ride. They've been good in one game. Malachi's
Yeah.
get them a trimming like in one of the games.
And
you know.
whereas Milltown Pass had been quiet in the group
Average,
stage,
yeah.
to put,
Average.
put it politely. And now Roxford Bridge, brilliant performance. Last day, very good performance as well. So, you know, similar enough in the senior. We were saying Loman's, Garrycastle been quiet all year. Two of them have timed their run perfectly now to get to finals.
Yeah,
so.
and look at Louis Ennis has been there and done that with plenty of teams, and there's no better man to get them warmed up and get them ready for a county final, in my opinion. I think Mike Tumley, the fact that Tang have one of their own backing them as well, I think he's a major influence on that Tang panel as well. I think it's very 50-50. I'm not going to call it. I'm definitely not. Milton Pass people want me to tip Tang. Not happening. I'm not going to tip either of them because they reckon if I keep tipping them, it's going to get there. But it has all the hallmarks of a very intriguing.
Yeah, and it's fantastic for the two areas. Like Tang, as I said, when I was with Westmeath, going back over the years, like Tang was a great focal point for training sessions, and Tom Farrell was down there, you know, between Spanner is right, and even Michael Bannon, all those, they just love their football in that area, and they're caught in between a whole lot of great football areas there between Maryland and then
Tuberclare.
Yeah. So
Moat,
and Miltown Pass, nearly all past pupils, and they were all great students for football in Rochford Bridge, and a lot of them were getting on as well, you know. So they just relish the thoughts of playing in senior championship. So it's really an intriguing match. You know, two clubs that deserve to be there.
Yeah.
For putting up, you know, resilience, as I just said, coming back in extra time.
And defying me in Milton Pass.
Yeah, but that's you could be the icing on the cake. The catalyst. Yeah.
I might get over here alive if they win it,
but no, really looking forward to both finals now. You know, and then again our talk about the junior.
I was just going to say that we're talking about both finals.
Nice.
I think the junior final will be a great
But
final.
it's nice to see outright junior clubs, especially, you know, Bunbrosna, like, have surprised me anyway. You know, a good friend of mine in Rochford Bridge, Chris Cole, is now part of their panel, and he makes cameo appearances every now and then. But they just love their football there as well, and that was a
proud
marvellous
club, Luke, and wouldn't want to stay junior. Like, I mean, only went down last season. A very, very proud set of players
I'm sure
who have given huge entertainment, not just at Westmeath level, but a lot of these lads have played at underage level for Westmeath, like the Newmans have given their life, I suppose,
and you get fantastic people like Paddy McCormick, and McCormick's out there, and Tormies, and you know, it was great to see. That was a marvellous win, because that was a good Loman's team. And that'll be another intriguing match, you know.
They did, but again, look, and I've been talking to a lot of people that were at it. It was experience over, you know, defiance almost.
Yeah.
You know, it was experience over defiance. Like Loman's had an awful lot of the likes of Shane Flynn and Conrad Riley and, you know, David Morgan and these guys who were bringing some of the younger guys through. But at the heel of the hunt, Bun just knew how it was to get over the line. They've won intermediate titles. You know, they've been in a couple of tight situations, maybe at intermediate and senior level, where, you know, and it probably stood to them in the end. Whereas the other game was probably the complete opposite. I happened to be here for that on Saturday afternoon, or Saturday at 1 o'clock, and it was 8 points to no score after 20 minutes, and game over. Like, as far as I was concerned, it was absolutely game over. And all of a sudden, Ballycamoyle decided, you know, we better show up for this game at some stage. Tommy Doyle pulled balls out of the clouds, it must be said, and all of a sudden it got back. There was only 2 points in it, and just as Ballycamoyle were coming to their milk, they got a very bad injury. One of their players was very badly injured up at this end here. I'm not quite sure who the Gosson was, but he got a very bad injury, ran into one of his own players, if I'm not mistaken, and the game was held up for 11 minutes, and 2 minutes after the game started, it was the water break. So any momentum, and they had huge momentum at that stage, was completely wiped away. And Finney just went on with old heads again. Willie Coyne, you know, the Kilcoynes, Emmett Corrigan. You know, he don't look more, I thought, for Finney had a really, really good game. But it was just that little bit of experience got Finney over the line. Now, I think Ballycamoyle will have better days. You know, it depends.
They've been very unlucky. I think is the last 4 winners or last 4 teams
Have
to
beaten them.
Beaten
Have
last
won the
4
county
winners
title.
Bet.
Yeah.
Ballycamoyle have won it.
Have won the county title.
It was Multi bet them
Yeah.
4 years ago. Who else bet them last year?
Last year.
The last 4 anyway have bet.
So this means that Castletown Finale are going to win the junior title.
There you go.
So Paul is now.
That's quite
saying-
obvious to me.
So Paul-
I think it's an intriguing battle. Again, it's a clash of styles, Luke.
yeah.
It's a real clash of styles. Finay are more of a running team. They run the ball through the hands. Bunbrusna are more of they're a tighter unit as they're playing together for probably the last, in some cases, 15, 16 years. An awful lot. He's got the likes of Ronan Scally, some of these lads, you know. So it has all the hallmarks of an absolutely brilliant game. The one thing I am delighted about, with no disrespect to any of the senior clubs, and we've said it here on many occasions, is I'm delighted it's a proper junior final.
Yeah, we've spoken at length about that. It is great because those clubs put so much into their football and looking after their grounds and everything got to do with just being part of a
GA
community.
people, Luke.
GA
people,
community,
proper Gaels, yeah.
absolutely. So they're going to have their day out, and it is just tremendous. Like I was just noticing down in Carlow, the intermediate champions are Éire Óg.
Yeah.
The senior champions are going to be Éire Óg. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
And it takes all the good
Yeah.
out of the intermediate championship. The fact that this huge club in Carlow,
Which is no fault of Éire Óg's either.
no,
Luke. Let's be honest about this.
yeah,
I have
of
no
course.
qualms about the
It's-
senior teams either. Like having second
Oh, no,
things.
I'm
Those
just saying
guys
that
need football as well.
hard, though.
But
Yeah.
it's hard for the proper junior clubs to keep at it.
Yeah,
and
proper-
anyone that was in attendance here, and there was a huge crowd here for the Finay at Ballycamoyle game because it was such a local derby. Like I mean, you almost had cousin against cousin, and
Yeah.
lads that probably living next door to each other playing against each other.
yeah, and you know
as well.
now we can look forward to
Yes.
the two football areas in the junior final, and we have a fantastic 3 matches coming up.
All to play for. Anybody want to tip anybody for any of the competitions, lads? Because I'm not doing it.
We'll do that on another day when we put more
Luke
thought into
Luke
it.
Dempsey is not going to tip anybody just yet.
No, well, if you want my tips now, and I could change them next week. I go Loman's, Milltown Pass, and Bunbrusna.
And I'll go, no, I won't. I won't be tempted. I won't be tempted. Save your money, boys and girls, because I've led you astray for most of the season. Yeah. So, listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have. We had a packed programme last weekend. Don't forget that this weekend is the weekend of hurling. It's the last weekend probably of the year, hopefully barring a replay, which I don't think there'll be an either of them. But we have the Senior B final here on Saturday, which is between Delvin and Cullen, which promises to be a rip-roaring game if the semi-final is anything to go by, and the form of Delvin so far. And of course, here on Sunday and live on AirV TV, and it'll probably be 2 hours, 2.5 hours of a programme. We have a full packed day ahead for Castletown Gagan versus Raharney in what promises to be an absolutely cracking senior hurling final. And I would suggest all our Gaels, no matter where you are in the world, get on to the AirV TV channel and go and watch that one, because I think it could be a cracker. Both at 3 o'clock. Programmes will probably be starting around the 1:30 mark. We have a lot of work that we'll be putting into those programmes beforehand. We'll be discussing them here next week, and maybe even progressing on to the football finals for the following week. But from this evening, from TG Cusick Park here, and from the Westmeath game, I'd like to thank Thomas Mount and Luke Dempsey for their insight and wonderful thoughts here on it. But we'll see you again real soon. Stay tuned to us for Sunday and Saturday and Sunday for the hurling finals here on Westmeath. But from us here on the Westmeath game, it's Slán agus Pannach agus Éire Bú.